Under the Tinubu administration, borrowing has increased and capital approvals have surged, yet budgetary releases to several key ministries remain strikingly low, and many Nigerians are asking, where is the money? Well, that is a picture emerging as the National Assembly concludes its 2025 budget oversight this week. While major infrastructure projects receive executive approvals running into hundreds of billions and in some cases trillions of naira, multiple service sector MDAs say that they are operating with a fraction of their approved funds. Here's my report on that. Nigeria's 2025 Appropriation Act was built on deficit financing. In October 2025, the National Assembly approved $2.347 billion in external loans to plug the budget shortfall. Shortly after, lawmakers approved an additional 1.15 trillion naira in domestic borrowing. The justification? To ensure full implementation of capital projects. And in select areas, spending has moved swiftly. In February 2025, the Federal Executive Council approved approximately 1.3 trillion naira for a major section of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. In May of 2025, FEC approved about 712 billion naira for the rehabilitation of Lagos International Airport's Terminal 1. But as oversight hearings conclude this week, a different picture is emerging across core ministries. The Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, with an approved capital allocation of roughly 218 billion naira, had received reported releases of only 36 million naira by the end of the fiscal year, while the Ministry of Transportation reportedly accessed just 1% of its 256.73 billion capital allocation. Independent Corrupt Practices Commission told lawmakers that out of its 22.4 billion allocation, only 5.35 billion naira has been released. The Office of the Auditor General for the Federation, on its part, warned that funding constraints are limiting its capacity to audit more than 1,000 federal entities at a time where public finance oversight is critical. Meanwhile, the Minister of Works disclosed that the federal government owes contractors approximately 2.2 trillion naira for completed and ongoing projects.
The first subsidy is gone.
From fuel subsidy removal savings to revenues from government-owned enterprise that have repeatedly claimed to have surpassed their revenue targets, the lawmakers want to know why the federal government is unable to settle over 2.2 trillion naira owed to contractors. Yet, alongside these shortfalls, discretionary and administrative spending within the presidency has continued. In 2025, the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Women's Health received approximately 150 million naira for the banquet to launch the Renew Her initiative at the State House. The Special Advisor to the President on Media and Policy Communications received about 500 million naira for emergency strategic communications and global media engagement. And in July of 2025, 191 million naira was recorded for presidential honorarium payments. Individually, these figures may appear modest within a trillion naira budget, but collectively, they underscore a broader concern raised during oversight. While critical ministries struggle to access capital funds, discretionary spending within the executive arm of government continues. Government officials maintain that infrastructure investments are designed to stimulate growth, improve trade corridors, and strengthen long-term competitiveness. However, fiscal analysts argue that expanded borrowing carries an implicit promise that capital funding will be distributed in a way that strengthens essential services, not just headline projects. Questions about prioritization are becoming harder to ignore. Federal lawmakers say the issue is not whether roads and airports should be funded, but whether deficit financing is translating into balanced execution. As lawmakers conclude oversight this week, the numbers suggest a widening gap. Borrowing has expanded. Approvals are significant. But for some ministries, that money is yet to arrive, even as the nation enters a new budget cycle for 2026. Adeswagiwa Osage, Arise News, Abuja. Well, as you may have seen from that report, ministers are going before the National Assembly to defend their budget estimates and their budget performance in the last year. What is becoming clear, however, is the substantial gap in accountability in a number of instances where appropriated funds have not been found to be judiciously expended on projects. Coupled to this is the fact that ministries, departments, and agencies are lamenting about poor budgetary funding. Joining us now for an overview of legislative oversight by the Nigerian National Assembly over the country's budget is Akinloye Oyeniyi, a legislative expert and consulting to the Standing Committee of the House of Representatives. Good morning and welcome to Arise News.
Thank you, morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's go straight into this. Nigeria's budget performance for 2025 is being looked over while 2026 budget proposals are also being investigated. When we have multiple ministries, like the Ministry of Health and Transportation, saying that their capital budget expenditure is 1% or less, whereas their recurring expenditure, money they spend on trips, training, and purchase of motor vehicles, seems to be received. Why is this prioritization being given to recurring instead of capital across our MDAs? And who should the Nigerian people to be looking at to accountability for this?
I think where the problem is actually coming from is the way the budget was divided. You know, normally you have the capex side, that you have the recurrent. Recurrent are those ones that make the MD, that will move the MDAs. That's the day-to-day activities of the affairs of the MD, whether it is ministry, whether it's department or it's an agencies. You understand? But the capital aspect are the real works, maybe construction and some other physical works. But you know, when this government came in, 2023, the budget was moving fine. 2024, we started having all these quote-unquote glitches where we see more of a release of a recurrent budget, part of the budget, and the capital part of the budget have been withheld. It entered into 2024, 2025 also. And you can see the Minister of Health and the Coordinating Minister of Social whatever saying that only 36 million of his ministry's budget, 2025 budget was released out of how many billions. See, this is what we are talking about. So when you have a budget in this form, there's no way the nation can move forward. You can be paying salaries, you can be buying diesels, you can be buying computers and be buying vehicles and the rest. But the main aspect of the budget is not being attended to. So, and there's the box is not stopping on anybody's table apart from the president. And severally, we've heard the president telling the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy to do release. First, in the first instance, they were saying it was the fault of the outgone Accountant General, the lady. We have new Accountant General now, and these funds are not still being released. We don't know what is actually happening. And you see National Assembly every time inviting the Minister of Finance to come forward, to come and explain to them, why are we not having capex? Why are we not having capex? Why are we not having capex? And this issue still continue to linger on to the point where we are now having to consolidate budget and budget together. We now have to be joining multiple budgets together for consolidation, repeal, and reenactment.
All right, Mr. Oyeniyi, you said the buck stops nowhere.
Yes.
The picture you have painted is scary, is very concerning, given the fact that you are a consultant,
Yes.
to a committee in the House of Reps, on budget matters. What do you think is the problem? When you say that it was around 2024 that things got awry, but we know that even in the last few years of the past administration, Buhari's government, there were budget overlaps too. There were budget overlaps, but now we're even now running 2, 3, sometimes 4, at the same time. Which, unlike Buhari, the current president has said that it must stop by April of this year. But the budget defense that is currently going on won't even finish until March. And therefore, as somebody who understands the inner workings of the House of Reps as far as looking after the budget and things are concerned, where do you think the problem lies? What is the issue that we can't seem to get things right as far as budget is concerned in Nigeria?
I think where the problem is coming from is from the ministry. I have to tell you, it's from the ministry, because we have other, and we should also know that this thing is not actually affecting all the ministries. There are some ministries who are getting their budget, although not optimally, but majority of the ministries and the majority of the MDAs, let me say MDAs, are not getting their capex. Majority of them are not actually having their capex. So where the problem is coming from is from the ministry. It's from the
which ministry? Are you talking of the finance?
It's not going to be about what I'm saying.
Are you talking of the finance
Ministry
ministry?
of Finance, yes. It is not about, yes. It is not about what I'm going to say here. We have people in Abuja here. Ask them. Severally, you see federal government contractors protesting in front of Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
There was a particular day, the lawyers to the contractors actually also protested that they are not being paid by their clients because federal government has not paid their clients. You understand me now? So has not paid their clients. So that is where the problem is going. The ministry, at a particular time, if you look at when the president wanted to bring this 2026 budget, the National, both the House and the Senate, they protested that they are not going to receive the budget unless the president addressed the issue of the old budgets, that's 2024 and 2025. Until that issue was, the president said they should release 30% of it, and the remaining 60% should be carried over to the new budget. You understand me now? So that is where the problem is coming from. Me, I have not seen any problem from anywhere. It's not as if there's no money. The subsidy has been cancelled. Even states are even getting more allocation now. So if states are getting more allocation, automatically we know the federal government is getting more allocation, and we are still borrowing. Are we borrowing to? Are we having all this excess fund and the borrowing to sponsor or to fund only the current expenditure? Or we should just spread both the current and the capex. So I don't know. The problem is coming from the ministry. I have to tell you, it's coming from the ministry. It's not coming from anywhere. It's from the ministry.
Sorry.
It's from the Ministry of Finance. From the Ministry of Finance. That's where the problem is coming from.
Sorry, are we to understand that the $2.347 billion borrowed in foreign borrowing, the 1.1 in domestic lending, that all that money is being held by the Ministry of Finance, and that also the ministry itself is preferring to pay for recurring rather than capital? Or is it that these different ministries and agencies are prioritizing their recurring expenditure over their capital expenditure?
I think the ministry is prioritizing the recurrent expenditure over the capital expenditure, because why they are doing like that is that when you hold on to the capital, it will not totally affect the workings of the government. It will only paint a bad picture of the government to the populace. But when you hold on to the current, there's going to be crisis. So because they don't want the crisis of the civil servant, they decided to be paying the recurrent while they hold on to the part that belongs to all Nigerians. Because capital budget belongs to all Nigerians, while the recurrent belongs to all the civil service people. You understand? Civil servant, if they deal with if what is happening to the capital, if that should happen to the recurrent, there's going to be chaos. There's going to be chaos, and they won't be able to contain that. It's even possible that NSC and the other unions or whatever will shut down the country. But contractors cannot shut down the country. They believe Nigerians cannot shut down. That's why the Ministry of Finance is handling the issue like that.
So, sorry.
What therefore do you say to the Minister of Finance, who is also expected to coordinate the economy? There's 2.3 trillion or more in debt, that is owed to local contractors. And we saw what happened at some point, late last year when they had to protest, carried, caskets and things like that. What do you say to him, given that he's an important, is an important inner circle member, to the president? Is this a question of misjudgment, or are you alleging failure outrightly?
I'm alleging failure. It's not an issue of me. I'm not misjudging. It's something that is open to everybody now. I'm alleging failure, and severally, even me personally, we've seen Nigeria, we hear in Nigeria calling for his sack. But I don't know why the president is still keeping. Even personally, me myself, I also join Nigerians that he should be taken off the job. We don't know why the president is still keeping him. The National Assembly, the Rep, and the Senate, they've done resolution on him. They will invite him. At times he will come. At times he will not come. It's when they said they want to give warrant of arrest for him to be brought to the National Assembly. Maybe he will just show up and say one or two things, and the president will now have to speak up and give order. The president will give him order. He will not follow. He won't follow. So what are we going to say? Just for him to be relieved of the job, and they should give it to somebody who knows how to do the thing, who knows how to do the job very well. Why will you be holding on to carpets? Even if it is apart from the fact that it will not make Nigerians to enjoy the dividends of democracy and dividends of the government that is in power. It's actually somehow sabotaging the effort of the government. That is sabotaging the effort of the government.
But that's an allegation. That's an allegation that you can't prove. That's an allegation that that's a strong word.
My brother. My first degree. I had my first degree in linguistics. So when I'm saying that inference, I know what something. I know something. If you are behaving somehow, I know what it infers. If he's not doing it, then let him release the money. It's our money now, and all these projects are for us. Let him release the money. Why? The president should take him. I don't have any advice for him. We have advised him for how many years? More than 2 years. So there's no. You advise him. The advice will enter from the right ear. All those advices they go out of his left ears. So what are we going to say to him again? Is it until we protest and we push him out of the place?
So
you said this yourself. You said contractors are protesting. They are putting up coffee in their place. It's almost every week, almost every day of the week they are there. But nothing is being done. The president is not doing anything. He himself is not doing anything. So who do we now run to?
You know, I find it difficult to believe that if the president wanted the contractors to be paid that 2.2 trillion approximate sum that they are being owed, that he would not simply direct the minister to do so, or that the minister would work against the president in that way. But let's move beyond the allegations that you've raised against the minister today, and let's talk about this capital expenditure. If we are seeing less than 1% of the 2025 budget being capital expenditure being funded for a ministry like health or transportation, and Nigerians are not aware until the ministers themselves say so, does that not imply that maybe even if they got 90%, we might not have felt it because we didn't feel the absence of the 90 or 99%? Or have we just gotten so used to poor delivery of projects by successive governments that, as you said, they don't care if Nigerians are up in arms about lack of projects, but they care if civil servants do not get paid or their travel expenses funded?
I think I would choose the part of Nigerians getting used to this type of situation. And I can tell you the situation is getting worse. And we shouldn't get used to it. And we see, Nigerians, it's not as if Nigerians are not talking. They are talking, but because, they are talking, there's a particular, talkings have stages. You can talk as a Nigerian, you just talk on social media or maybe in the public interview, you just talk. The main people that are supposed to talk at the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Reps, and they have been talking. There's a particular day, the House of Reps, the members walked out. They walked out. Yet, nothing is being done about it. The president said they should release 30%. Even the National Assembly member, the Zonal Intervention Project, the ZIPs, are not being funded. Let us even leave the MDAs now. We have under the carpets, we have the MDAs, then we have the ZIPs of the National Assembly member. It is not being funded. Those projects are not being funded. They are not being funded. That is why so it is not only the ministry that are suffering. The National Assembly members are also suffering. They are also suffering. They can't take anything home to their constituents.
All right, Mr. Akinloye, Oyeniyi. Well, I just wanted to quickly remind you before we let you go that you know there is a Minister of State, for Finance, Mr. Doris Ozoka Anete, who, as we have been told, has also been given additional responsibilities, maybe because there are gaps here and there, that has been seen within the ministry. But here you are saying that, the headship has to be right, and the president needs to take certain decisions based on the preponderance of opinions, on the performance of the Ministry of Finance. But we want to thank you for joining us on the morning show today. Thanks indeed for joining us. I mean, you've made some very weighty allegations, but of course, that is your opinion.